Welcome to Nintendo News. I'm your host, Chris Tyson. We're here to talk about news that the big toy company Toys R Us is planning bankruptcy, which is fairly big news, I guess, in America, and maybe a little bit of news here in Australia, seeming that there's a store here in Canberra and stores all around Australia. It was seen, Toys R Us is seen as like that huge toy department store. And let's have a look at what it says. The chain was loaded with debt and buyout more than a decade ago. Looming Chapter 11 filings rippling through toy industry. It has struggled to lift its fortune since a buyout loaded the retailer with debt more than a decade ago. Is preparing bankruptcy filing as soon as today, due to sources. Is trying to restructure $400 million in debt that comes due next year, potentially leading the chain rebuild as a lender organisation, which is interesting. Apparently, they've been in trouble for the last 15 years, and of course, the Toys R Us have declined to do things. Now, the company has had to spend as much as $500 million on cash interest expenses alone. That left Toys R Us with less cash to put towards store expansions, merchandising, and the growth of its online presence, which would have really hurt it a lot. So in 2015, they named Dave Braden as its CEO, turning to the former head of Domino's Pizzas to attempt a comeback. Had run Domino's for 11 years and gained a reputation as a turnaround artist. He showed signs of progress when the company first posted a holiday sales gain in 4 years. However, it needed to do some borrowings, giving it more time to execute Brendan's plan. As part of his revival effort, he's been sprucing up stores with more toy demonstrations and other experiences. But apparently, the following Christmas, it dropped. Same store sales dropped 2.5% during the final 9 weeks of last year. And apparently they've been stuck in price wars and things like that. So, but it might not be completely over. But I remember Toys R Us where you used to be able to buy video games, like during the GameCube and DS and Game Boy Advance era. That was my really only memories of it, because there's no Toys R Us when I was up in Queensland and that sort of thing. But it's going to be interesting, if people buy Amiibos and games over in America, if they still sell that sort of thing, because Toys R Us here in Australia, they don't sell video games anymore. I think when the Wii era started up, and I think even when the Wii U era came around, they sold a couple and they just stopped selling video games. So I think part of the problem with Toys R Us is that their prices are quite expensive. They're probably one of the most expensive places. You can find the best toys there, but it comes at a high price, and I think in this today's economy, I think that's just not going to work here in Australia. They're even posting losses here in Australia too as well. So what do you think of Toys R Us collapsing or about to? It'll be interesting to see how it changes the toy industry and maybe a little bit of the video game industry too. A bit of the end of an era is looming. So that's news for me, and I shall see you next time.